Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Good Morning Education Show Weekend Special. My name is Rotimi Eyitayo, and I'm excited to be here once again to be your host this morning on the Good Morning Education Show. We call this Weekend Special a special one because, of course, the time is different, and also because we make sure that we spend less time talking about the news and we spend more time talking about the issues that will make the news. My name is Rotimi Eyitayo. We're streaming from Lagos, Nigeria to Africa, West Africa to Africa to the entire world. And if you're just joining us, welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. We're always excited to have guests, friends, colleagues, partners, tribe members to always join us on the show so that we can always have a robust time together to learn, a robust time together to share as well. And this show is pretty much a show that you don't want to miss because we stream the show Mondays all through to Sundays. On Mondays to Fridays, you can catch us 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. And then, of course, on Saturdays, which is the beginning of the weekend special, we have the show from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And then we'll take a step further. And on Sunday, we have it 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Please understand the Good Morning Education Show is not just a time. It's a time where we really tackle issues and break them down into bits and pieces to add value and meaning to everyone who is around and who is out there. And it's always a time for reflection, a time to learn, a time to get informed, a time to get understanding, a time to connect, a time to be inspired, a time to get fired up, as some of us would say, a time to get gingered, as it were. And I could tell you, not just because as an anchor and the host of the show, I can tell you from personal experience and from feedback from several people within and outside the country that the Good Morning Education Show is almost like that booster, that pill that keeps you going, especially for practitioners and stakeholders within education. And we don't just talk about education in terms of schooling, we talk about education on a broad spectrum. We talk about education concern, we talk about education as an industry, we talk about education as a system, we talk about education as businesses, we talk about things that would drive you and I to be able to add value and add meaning to not just our lives, but to the lives of other people. The sector needs the sector needs content like this so that we don't actually have to wait till a conference before we can learn together, before we can share together, to wait and postpone our time of growth to a seminar. And that's why we decided to do this, to make sure that we are in faces every time. And it's because of you that we find that motivation to keep doing what we do. And trust me, we've been at this for over a year. And one of the things I like to say and consistently say is that if you're catching us for this, or you've been here before, please ensure, make it a duty that you tell someone and tell someone to tell someone about the Good Morning Education Show. Don't just stop there. Make sure that on the Good Morning Education Show, you make it a duty to subscribe to our channel, like our videos, share the videos, tell others about it, because it's always a great time for you to share. It's always a great time for every one of us. And trust me, we also give you opportunity to ask questions, to contribute, to make your contributions on the show. We give you opportunity to talk to us and tell us all that you would like to share, And of course, if you're a first timer, there's something called the bell. Let's give you a bell of blessing as acknowledging your presence with us on the show. And we have analysts, we have guests, we have special individuals who come in from time to time to share their thoughts, to share their expertise, to share their views about the issues that we're having. And that's why we have on the show something that always comes out, not just as a phrase or a mantra, but as our belief system. We say that it's always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. And I believe it will be a great morning for you today. It will also be a great day for you. And ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. I'll be bringing up one of our analysts now, and it's safe to say, long time, no hear, no see, Dr. Fin Olufalodun. Good morning, and a special welcome to you. A bell of your presence today.
Thank you. Good morning. This very rainy morning, and it's good to be back. Yeah, it's raining at my
Oh,
end. Raining, but it's good to be back on the show. Good morning, everybody.
good morning. Thank you for joining us on the show this morning. And of course, we'll be having a great time. Obviously, we'll be having a great time today. So let's just start by asking you, how's your week been? So we don't act insensitive. How's your week been?
My week has been good. It's been full, but it's been good. Thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. It's been good. It's been full. Fantastic. All right. So this is where we bring the topic of the day into the spectrum, and we are talking about who is in the cockpit. Who is in the cockpit? I'm sure you've seen this. What comes to your mind? Looking at this title. What comes to your mind?
First thing that comes to my mind is safety. So, if we're asking who is in the cockpit, it means we want to know that our flight is going to will take off smoothly. It will go the entire length of the journey very smoothly, and will be able to land without any incident. So when I hear who is in the cockpit, I think safety of everyone involved, or safety of the right leadership for everyone who is directly involved, or who is directly affected by leadership, by the role of leadership, by the decisions and all of, because yeah, it looks, the topic definitely, we know is figurative. So who is leading, who is who is leading, who is in control, who is in charge, and yeah, and that is that's very important for everyone to know that, look, the vehicle or the plane I'm in is in the right hands, and I can focus on doing something else. I can focus on being on playing my part, knowing that whoever is at the cockpit is fully in charge and in control. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Um, it's very important that we realize that for people who are also listening to us, when we say cockpit, cockpit is more or less that part of the plane where you have the pilot. It's like the driver's seat. That's the direction, and I'm sure that's why Finn was saying that the first thing that would come to mind is safety, because if you want to talk about cockpit, you're talking about, not just anybody's expected to be in the cockpit. The cockpit is designed not for a crowd. It's designed for only the people who have to be there. It's designed for those who really have to, steer the affair of the aircraft. And of course, when we bring that integration, like Fee said, into the space of the classroom, or the space of the education system, then it's simply saying that we need to cast our attention and our focus on the drivers of the system, the drivers of the classroom, the drivers of the learning outcome and learning experience, and which really, really is something that you cannot discount, you cannot but emphasize on, So I with you. Yeah. Excuse me. I think I agree with you with that concept of looking at it as the driver. It's almost like saying that what would now be the yardstick of now you getting satisfied with that answer after the question has been asked. What should be the yardstick? Who should be in the cockpit? Who should be in the cockpit? As opposed to just understanding what's happening in the cockpit, who should really be in the cockpit? I want you to share with us, give us that step by step or specifics as to this. Over to you.
Okay, so the yardstick to measure uh, the performance of the pilot or the driver is determined by the outcome that we want to get. So, for example, if I were in a vehicle that's supposed to be heading to Ibadan, and or no, yes, they're supposed to be heading to Ibadan, and then by the driver lands me in Abeokuta. Definitely, that's not that driver has not succeeded in um, the task that was given to him. So the yardstick to measure success, and if the pilot is succeeding, is the outcomes. What are the outcomes we want to achieve? Now that takes me to who should be in the cockpit. Now the person that should be in the cockpit should be someone with a vision, with clear vision, with at least it's not blurry. He can see what is right ahead of him. He can see even beyond what is in the immediate ahead of him. He has a vision. He knows that, look, this is what we want to achieve. Apart from maybe the collective or the corporate uh, goal or task that we have set, how can I get these people there? How do I see myself moving to get to that destination that we have set? The person in the cockpit must be someone who can self motivate, because there are times that, okay, take for example driving in Lagos and then you get stuck in some horrible traffic. If you cannot motivate yourself to say, look, i'm not going to I'm not going to be discouraged and leave this vehicle in the middle of the road and just walk away from it, at that time it may not be external motivation you need. You should be able to on your own say, look, okay, I know this is temporary, or even if it's semi-permanent, but I'm going to get out of here. So he must be able to self motivate, so that he can motivate the team when when they're losing steam. The person in the cockpit must also be someone who knows how to lead. It's not just, oh well, I have been dumped in the cockpit, all I'm required to do is to ensure that you get to your destination, and that's it. So where the air hostesses are not doing what they're supposed to do, he just turns a blind eye. You're the captain of the plane. You are, eh, well, for many, when you hear the pilots being talked about, you hear captain so and so would be is in the cockpit, is in the yeah, will be our pilot today, and you're the captain of the ship. You can't afford to take your eyes off any of the controls. You can't afford not to keep communicating with the towers. You can't afford not to keep communicating with the ground team. So he must be a leader. He must be able to rally everybody. He must be able to lead from the front. If a control is not working, it shouldn't be, oh, I'm not the engineer, I shouldn't be the one checking these things. You know that you're responsible for the people on your team and the people on your plane. So if you realize that, oh, something doesn't seem very right, you should flag it and call the attention of those who would fix it. So for me, three things I'll point this morning: vision, motivation, and leadership are required of the person in the cockpit. Thank you.
I love that. vision, motivation, very, very clear and very apt. We need to realize that um, the 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 title and the qualification is one thing, but the direction and the destination is another. And most of the time, we must also interpret some of these questions. Who is in the cockpit? We're trying to also say that are we really, really clear about who is in the cockpit? Are we really sure about who is in the cockpit? Is it possible that we are not even looking at things in the best of perspectives? This sometimes can help us realize that um, if we look at where we want to get to, being destination focused, I think that it gives us a better positioning, a better reality, a better understanding and perspective, right? It's almost going to now help qualify. Like I normally tell people that sometimes we need to realize that there are two concepts at work, that there is the person who is doing the work, there is the office of the one who is doing the work. And so there are certain demands on person. And so when we look at the direction, when we look at the destination, that we want for the education system and the sector, that we want for the classroom in terms of learning outcomes, we must be peculiar and we must be precise about it, because that outcome is what determines what we put in. Like they say, the end is what justifies the means. On that note, let's welcome Olushola Olumide. Thank you for joining the show. Good morning, sir. Welcome
Good
to the weekend
morning.
session.
Good morning, Rotimi Eyitayo. Good morning, Fiyin. It's nice greeting you here. You didn't reply my message.
Oh, good morning, sir. I'm sorry, I must have missed it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Nice having you here.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So we are talking about um, who is in the cockpit today. Olushola Olumide, would you like to share your
Yeah.
thoughts first on the topic?
Yes. I think who is in the cockpit is strategic and it portends where we are headed. Like you said, the personality is one. Secondly, is the position of the person, which must not be mismatched. Um, I think that it should be liberty, at least considerably, for the person in the cockpit. We don't gag the person because of the risk. We don't unseat the person. We should allow the person some level of liberty. However, the level of liberty you enjoy in the cockpit will be predicated on the proficiency and the trust the society, the classroom, the education sector has on you. Looking at what you're supposed to do in the cockpit is not a place to go and play. Yes, it's good you are occupying that position. Do you have the wherewithal as a person to occupy that position? Or else, my saying is this: if you board a vehicle, you can stop the driver abruptly and say, "Hello, can you stop for me? I want to drop." In the next few seconds, it will apply the brake, it will stop. You don't do that in the air. You don't tap the pilot mid-air and say, "Can I come down?" Neither do you tell a sailor or a captain on the IC and say, "I think I'm not going. Can I step out of the ship?" That person will be a disaster going somewhere to happen. So that makes it very, very crucial. Before anybody occupies the cockpit, does that person have what it takes to be there? Well, that's one. Does he have the clarity to fly? Does he know what to press at what point in time? Because he's like the one leading the pack. If that vision is blurry, it's going to endanger the life of the passenger. If the person there lacks the capacity to man that cockpit, there will be trouble. So for me, yes, great. The personality, the proficiency, the professionalism of the person in the cockpit matters. As we decipher and discern who is there, then we must go and look deeper beyond the facial look, beyond the height or the robustness of the size of the person. Does the person have something within to move us forward? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that. And it's very important for us to realize, just like if I was to put that illustration there, I think that we must be conscious of the fact that there are external factors, the externalities in certain situations, which also brings us to be mindful of the fact that if you have a bad weather and you're flying the plane, that now it doesn't discount your knowledge of flying. Be a factor. In some cases, some people choose not to take off, not to even fly, because the weather seems to be a bit at variance to the flight path. And because of that, it also means that it's instructive for us to know that we cannot place routine over reality. We can't place routine over context. So how do we get, and I'm going to start with Finn, how do we get our experts, starting from the sector's regulators and administrators to the classroom facilitators and teachers, how do we get them to not just be stuck in their path, like they say, stuck in a rut? How do we ensure that they begin to have something like a wind gauge, a barometer, something that helps them to say, this is the reality now. This is the reality of today. Our social reality is placing a demand on us. Therefore, we now have to do this as the people in charge in the cockpit. Over to you, Finn. Finn, your mic is muted, please.
Oh, sorry. If I got the question right, we're looking at what keeps our practitioners, regulators, teachers, educators, what keeps them motivated and adapting to the different situations that they come across. Is that right?
Yes, it's just like, we have a lot of people who have been trained and they're experts, but that the reality ahead of us, we find out that it's like our education is all on one course. We are on a path of fulfilling the, all righteousness, fulfilling the path of the content, fulfilling the curriculum, and then our reality is so far from what we are doing.
Okay, so in answering this question, I believe we need to have this like a round, not a round table really, because the round table may not take all of us, but there is a need for all the different sectors of the education system to come together. It's very easy to say, well, teachers need to be creative, they need to be open-minded, they need to consider using different strategies, not just stay with what's in the book, not just stay stuck with what's on paper. But there are times that a teacher is hampered by what's by directives from the management that says, oh, just do what you have been instructed to do what you have been paid to do. There are times that the management is frustrated because it's like it's trying to get its teachers to embrace a culture change, and they just feel like, look, I can't kill myself. So it's before we look at, or while we look at a solution to this issue, we should be looking at having not having a teachers conference differently, and then having a management meeting, and then there's a need to have everybody together under one roof, and let's see where our functions overlap, and see what would you need from me to make sure that your work is is dynamic. You're able to perform your duties in a better way. You're able to, if for example you're looking at maybe what you're supposed to teach was the weather, and maybe that particular day you were supposed to talk about maybe the summer, and it's raining, it's a good time to change that particular topic and change it either to a windy day or a rainy day, and not stick with it and say, oh well, what's the schedule for today says is that we're talking about heat. But some teachers may not attempt to do that, because if they do, they're not going to leave it down. They're going to no, this is what it's been, and that's what you should stick with, and that's what you should teach. You can So it's very important for us to have everybody come together. Let's discuss this thing. Let's look at what exactly do we want for our system. How exactly do we want to move forward? How exactly do we plan to ensure that our education system is cutting edge? It's not just relying on past glory. It's not just recycling what it's been. And then for those who are even embracing newer systems, that we're not just copying, because there are times that what we're copying is not relevant to us. We're just, oh, everybody is doing this, and then we do it. What's the relevance to our children? What's the relevance to our climb? And this is my submission on that question. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know if Olushola wants to add to that.
Yes. Thank you. I wish to add to that. Of course, talking about extraneous factors, we can't rule that out. Sincerely speaking, we can't rule it out, and at times it's beyond the educator or the teacher. Like Finya just said, everybody has to be in the know, and educators are not robots. Situation at hand, we warrant taking initiative and doing something that may not be part of the laydown. What that means is that just like the pilot in the cockpit is having a storm in the air, he has to do the best thing part time. Yes, that may not bring out the solution needed, but he must have acted in utmost good faith. I had a very funny scenario. I was moving from the Southern region, and because the flight was delayed, it was night by the time we were getting to Lagos, and we couldn't land on the local runway. We needed to land on the international runway. Don't forget that the pilot had to keep contacting the control tower. He cannot do things for himself. Unfortunately for us, we didn't run out of fuel that evening, because for the next 20 minutes, we were hovering in the air. He kept trying to locate signal and all that. Let's assume we ran out of fuel. That was probably not within his control. The control tower is saying wait, and the signal from the plane is saying fuel is about to finish. He has to act in the utmost with best intention part time, either to land abruptly. Of course, if he didn't land, we have to land by force. By the time the fuel finishes, we are still going to come down. But fortunately, the fuel was intact for the next 20 minutes until eventually was given the go ahead. It was beyond his control. He couldn't just land. But while we were in the air, he kept rotating, moving up and down, and trying to communicate those of us seated. We're having issue landing. Hold on for us. We're trying to get it, which is okay. Everything will not always be within the control of the educator, but he must act, give his best part time. And like he said, they may pick him up or pick out, why did you not do that? And that is why professionalism of the administrator, of the school owner also matters. It's not just because I have money to set up schools. If the educator has acted in the best interest and you victimize him, you are going to kill his creativity, for goodness sake. So I feel everybody concerned must be on the same page, and we should give allowance for that flexibility, because with your skill and expertise, there may be something beyond your control, and you need to act, or else something will go awry. So for me, I think anything beyond our control, we should act in the best interest of your system and give our best, even if it is not honored or acknowledged, but you'll have satisfied your conscience and you'll have acted ethically as far as that profession is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And which is where the question, Tiffany mentioned, we need to bring people together under one roof. And you are also saying that, of course, we need to stress these factors and all that. I think that we need to ask ourselves, where is the watchtower for education? Where is the watchdog? Where is the rule? How do you stand and say you are watching? You see, even scientists across the world, they have what you call doomsday clock. And there are certain things that happen in the world that they take note of, and they shift the clock by minute close to midnight. As it were, right now, it's almost midnight on the scientist's clock. And that's more like their concept of doomsday. And we also need to ask ourselves, industries make predictions, industry profile their future. And we must realize that education is also an industry. So are we just recipient focused? Are we just reactive based? How do we read the signs? Afi, I want you to share insights on this. Where's the watchtower? Where's the watchword coming from?
Unfortunately, right now, I can't say that I know or that I'm aware of the watchtower. For watchdogs, I think there are many watchdogs, but they're not the kind of watchdogs that we're looking for. They're the kind of watchdogs that are waiting for when to pounce in and say, yes, your school has not paid so and so duty for so and so time. Well, and then they start threatening you with a lockup, with a shutdown, and all of that. But when it comes to us making the right prediction, yeah, there is the NUC. There are associations for private educators. There are associations for there is the teachers, the regulatory or registration CRCN. All of those bodies are supposed to be our watchtower. They're supposed to be the ones letting us know, oh, the temperature is getting hot. We need to calm it down a little. Or it's getting too cold. They're supposed to be our thermostat. But find out that they're more concerned about, oh, all teachers have to be registered by so and so date, which is good. If you're not registered, you will not be allowed to teach, you will not be fine. That is also fine. But beyond all of that, what are we looking at concerning where we are headed as a system? Everybody is their own watchtower. Each school is its own watchtower. Just look around and feel sometimes, one very unhealthy practice is schools sending, what do they call, like undercover agents to other schools to sniff things out. Or who is their best teacher there? Let's take their best teacher in so and so subject to improve our own school so that we can improve our output and have better profits. It's a dog eats dog out there. It's a jungle, and it's not supposed to be. It's no wonder we are where we are. So who is communicating to say, look, you cannot land here? Who is communicating to say you cannot take off here? Who is communicating to say you're running out of fuel? Who is communicating to say, look, there is something wrong with your engine? Nobody. We don't have that kind of a watch on our backs. We can't focus really on one thing and say, okay, we want to ensure that special education in Nigeria is taking this form or is taking this direction, or this is what we are going to. The association is coming together. We're having an association for special education, and this is what we want to achieve by quarter one. This is how we want to reach our children that have special needs. This is how we want to get their parents on board. And we don't have all of that. Rather, we're running after the things that we shouldn't. And well, as time goes on, we really do not have the time. But I think we have come to that point where there needs to be that core. Maybe the watchtower can start off being a non-governmental body, and they're able to now point those things out. If there is the relevance of that body, if we know there's the need for it, but we're still not seeing the relevance. So the moment we begin to see the relevance, it becomes obvious to everybody that, okay, so we need this. We need to put this in place. And the government may be pressured or not into having a standardized governmental watchtower for us. Else, we need to take this up by ourselves and rise up to it to say, look, education is not supposed to be negative competition. We can compete with ourselves to ensure that we get better every day. But it should not be the competition of, oh, I'm looking for every way possible to get your students. I'm looking for every way possible to get your best staff. I'm looking for ways to malign you and make parents lose trust in you. No, let's set up our own, because the watchtower really is a healthy place. It's what we all need. It's healthy. It's like setting a health clock to say, look, your blood pressure is getting too high. What do you need to do? You need to slow down. You need to see the doctor. You need to get on medication. Oh, your blood sugar is getting too high. What do you need to do? What do you need to cut out? So it's the watchtower is not the enemy, or should not be seen as the enemy. Thank you.
You actually made a point that it seems like the people who should be regulated have moved from regulation to executioners. So it looks like we want to catch people in the act rather than to make people comply. But then sometimes I want to ask myself: is this a systemic thing? Is it a cultural thing? Is it because that's the only way to prove that we're working, or is it because sometimes at that mode it's easier to get pecuniary rewards and stuff like that? Okay, so I'm going to ask Ulushola to jump in on this. What I'm going to say is, now, knowing fully well we're able to identify these issues, how do we kind of, in a strategic way, how do we kind of champion this cause to make sure that we do not experience, in your own words, the mismatch that we are all the time complaining about? Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Until we see things the way we should see them. As P was talking, I realized what appeared to constitute the inequity we are having is because we seem not to see the risk factor of not doing the right thing within the education space. It is believed that if you are having frequent plane crashes, it will create alarm all over the world. It is believed that if patients are dying often in the hospital, it will create alarm all over the world. We didn't realize that we are killing the coming generation. Because the people didn't die immediately, we are overlooking the effect of not doing things right. I tell people, if the doctor prescribe wrongly for you, it can lead to death. They say yes. If you don't handle a child properly, you will kill that child, but that child will go on to kill many other people. Because a child that is traumatized, that has psychological problem, a child who sees a school as a prison yard, a child who is not literate, who is not well taught, can become anything tomorrow, can become a terrorist, can become a bandit. Unfortunately, we will not be able to trace people that killed that child because it didn't happen immediately. If a doctor does wrong and the patient dies immediately, we can hold on to the people. It appears we are more careful because the result of our misdeed in the other sector appears immediately. But the effect of the misdeed in the education sector is not immediate. And that's why everybody appears to be less concerned. Until there is a shift in mentality. No watchtower, no runway. Everybody is just on his own. And it is, as it's often been said, that government don't have business being in business. I think if we leave this in the hand of government, we may not get anywhere soon. And sincerely, we be reactive. Until things happened, it is then we will now say, okay, what did happen? If you are unable to trace the evil done to a particular person that did the evil, everybody is trying to hide away. Therefore, it becomes a systemic problem. The effect of not doing the right education, I'm not sure is lesser than the one that happened in the aviation or in the health sector. Only that some are immediate, the other is prolonged. Until we see the evil of not doing the right thing that is going to affect the coming generation. Unfortunately, those people who sow that seed may not be alive to see it germinate. People that didn't were not part of the people that sowed the seed will live to reap and eat out of the fruit. And it's part of where we are today. So for me, irrespective of any strategy, process, procedure, convention, conferences, it is that mentality overhauling first for me. When we see that we are killing a generation by not doing what we need to do, I think we'll need less of theory. We'll need less of conferences. We'll need less of strategies because everybody will rise up to the occasion and do what needs to be done. I wouldn't know where we really want to start from, but I hope we start from somewhere. And it's what we need to do. Rotimi, you need to see the effect. This paramilitary group, the Legion, the boot camp they had in May, I was their guest speaker. We're talking about school crime prevention services. Even though my session was late in the night, I had to wake all of them up. I said, don't sleep. Oh. This one I'm about to tell you now, it is sitting on a keg of gunpowder. Go to the public schools. At least will you see any public school in Nigeria? I mean, Lagos, let me take Lagos for example. That the end of the fence will not be broken down and you see tout and miscreants smoking marijuana there. I grew up in a slum. I saw it firsthand. You will see at the end of that fence is broken down and you will see miscreants selling marijuana and smoking marijuana there, and that's supposed to be a school. Some of our students, they leave the classroom and pass through that place to escape when they don't want to stay in class. Some of them, they go and sniff marijuana. They are supposed to be in school. All this thing is a matter of time. We are sowing wind. It will bring us wild wind. It's a matter of time. Something needs to be done. We cannot just leave things to chance. The life of these children are being plundered by the day. Let me stop here, Rotimi.
Thank you so much. You really touched a very strong nerve, and you know what it simply means is that we also must realize that when we talk about cockpit, it's everyone's in a cockpit of their own, in their own right. And I'm going to ask Finn this question: how do we begin to cultivate competence in our respective cockpits? Because as a teacher, you have a cockpit, you're in a cockpit. As an administrator, you're in a cockpit. As a regulator, you're in a cockpit. If whatever position of authority or whatever position of function and responsibility, it's your cockpit. How do we cultivate? Because all that I'm hearing is that there's need for us to begin to cultivate competence. Finn, over to you.
Cultivating competence.
it's like we want to peel off layers and layers um, of something that maybe of meat that has been dried over years, and then we just suddenly realize, oh, I need to cook one. And I have this what they call that meat, kanda, is it kanda or tinko, that is so strong you cannot throw it into the stew immediately and expect to eat it. That's the way I view our need for competence. Things have gone wrong for so long that if you ask now what exactly competence is, or what we even want to be competent at, that's question for another day. We need to begin to trace it and figure out what exactly the best practices are, because we've done so much with we've gone so long in the wrong way that we seem to have lost the right way. But I would say that if we really are if we really are serious about this topic, about bringing about overhauling the system, about competence, then it's going to require it's going to take a lot of pain, but we would need to completely change things around. We would need to maybe go back and see what best practices were. If it works with us now, yes. If not, we define what best practices are for us right now. As Mr. Olumide was talking, what just kept coming to my mind is, it looks, even in the education sector, there is um, discrimination, and these things that we're talking about, they don't usually affect children in the private schools. Their own set of problems is a completely different one. But when you talk about killing a child, when you talk about teachers not really minding whether their students are in class or not, the first question is, are they even in class? Are the teachers even in class? That's the beginning of competence. When you have a period for 1 o'clock, where are you at 5 minutes to one? Are you just strolling into the class at 10 past one and then use the next 10 minutes to abuse all the children, how they're smelling, how they're dirty, how they don't have school bags, and all of that? Spend the remaining another 10 minutes to to uh, to harass them and threaten them and bully them on how A is for God, B is for your father, C is for you, and D the others. All of these things are part of what makes up our competences. Where is the school administrator in assigning, in ensuring that you get the best hands, and not just getting the best hand, you're remunerating them appropriately such that their minds are in one place. They can focus on what they're supposed to do. They're not looking for other ways to say, look, I need to feed myself, feed my children, ensure my family is clothed and are not on the streets. Because all of these things are part of what affects our competences. So it still comes back to us coming together as a body to say, come, let's have Yoruba, will call it, Yorubas will call, I will interpret for those who are non-Yoruba speakers. Yorubas will call it Ajotonirono. Let's call ourselves together for for a sober assembly and sober reflection and say, yes, so far we have got it wrong. So far we don't even know what we should be doing anymore. A new teacher is an old teacher is handing over to a new teacher, and what you are handing over is ineptitude. What you're handing over is, well, don't bother. You see, they don't even take the lesson notes, so you don't worry. Or what you're handing over is that you can go over last session's lesson notes and just write it. All they need to see is that you wrote it and just mark it. The children said, don't, it doesn't matter. You don't need to cover everything. Teach them for 10 minutes. Use the remaining as homework. That's what is being passed down. So the person coming in believes that's the normal, and that's what they run with. By the time they're handing over to the next person, that is what they hand over. So we need to overhaul the entire system. We need to have that conversation. It's not going to be easy. It's not, people will lose their jobs. But if that's what is going to cost for us to get it right, if that's what is going to cost for us to understand the roles we need to play, if that's what is going to cost for people to ask themselves, am I supposed to be in this system at all? But if I feel that teaching or education was my calling, is it still my calling now? Or has something happened to reset my brain? Am I realizing that, look, I'm underappreciated, or I'm underpaid, or I've caught a new interest, and and am I still deceiving myself thinking, look, this is where I'm supposed to be? So we need a complete overhaul. Have everybody examine what they have been doing and examine what they should be doing. And I think a very good way to do this is for us to put ourselves in the position of these children and ask, if I were to be in a classroom, what would I want my teacher? So how would I want my teacher to handle me? If I were to be a teacher as an administrator, how would I want my administrator to treat me? And probably we just might begin to get it right from there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to ask Olushola probably to also say some things from what you've said. However, I would like us to address this as he will use as a remark. I know that sometimes we have the issue of 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 maybe antecedents. Let me put it this way: how can we take out of the equation this copycat effect? Seems that thing has made us a bit lazy and redundant. How do we take that out? Still, because obviously, if you will cultivate something, let's look at the way they do it in agriculture. You need to till the land. How do we get to take the weed of copycat culture out of this situation? Olushola, over to you.
Thank you very much. Like Finya said, we need to be decisive. Unfortunately, politicking may not allow. Copycat, we need to get rid of it and let people sort of be innovative, be creative, come up with ideas that will be of help. But the challenge is this: you discover that when you go through a system that has plus or minus ruined your life or your career, if you come back to that system, it will only take the grace of God for you not to be a murderer. And when earth is not healed, we recycle it and it's perpetuated. And I think that is happening to some of the people who are in the system. That, okay, if I couldn't get it in my time, then you shouldn't get it too in your own time. But there should be quality control, maybe training, and mindset shifting should come up so that we can upgrade. I saw something on the screen that somebody talking about licensing. As good as that is, do you know that does not cure the problem? Yes, of course, educators are getting licensed now because they are doing TRCA. Apart from writing the exam and passing and getting that certificate, did anything shift in them? Look at the regimentation or the regimented training, a pilot. Yes, maybe there may be quack, doctor, quack, but they are very few compared to the education sector. If we are limiting to, if you don't have certificate in education, you cannot get TRC and say you go and do PGD. Some of the people even who have certificate in education didn't want to be an educator. Having the certificate was circumstantial. So if you license them, that didn't even solve the problem. I think the issue of quality control matters a lot, and we should stop playing politics with the life of these young people. If somebody is not doing it well, let the person know he's not doing it well. And we should not put a square peg in a round hole. As long as we keep playing politics, we will not do the right thing. Somebody feels, I know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and I can always get what I want. I can get it for my children. I can get it for my cousin. I'll get it for my nieces or my nephews. Yes, and I tell you, it happened in a state where about 1,000 people did screening to be employed, into the teaching job, and by the time they were to be trained on the job before they resume, it was a complete set of 800 people that came for training, not the people who wrote the exam. So those who wrote the exam will continue to sit there in their house and waiting for the time they will be called. Meanwhile, some people have got the job, they have resumed. Until these things are sorted out, I think we'll move just a little. And as I have said, if, God forbid, if you have like 2 plane crashes every week, will they not declare emergency in the aviation sector? Even 2 crashes in a month. Do you know how many crashes we're experiencing weekly in the education sector? And nobody seems to know or understand or claim to see. We must have the will, the gut. Yes, I know the system may fight back, because that's another thing. Rotimi, we love it so. Majority of our people like the way things are now. Let somebody wake up tomorrow, an administrator, a school principal who wants this to be done, who move from class to class. Which period are you now? They say we're in the 4th period. Who is supposed to be in your class? Business study teacher. Where is she? Where is he? It's not around. Even educators. And they begin to beef the man or the woman who wants things to be done. But if their salary delays, they will shout. So the people who are even trying to champion the cause for, do they want a change? Are they ready to be up and doing? Majority, are they not living with the slogan of, oh, I cannot kill myself? When you hear things like that, you wonder, how did these people get here? It's as if majority of the educators love it so. We don't want to work, but we want money. And we compare, see the way what they are paying teachers in Germany. Go to the US. Is it the way teachers in Germany are working? I think until until we get tired with the system, we will not make any change. This even goes to individual educators. I tell people, if the government is bad, the regulators are bad, do you know the people on the field are worse? They want it so. Quality control officer that goes to the public schools, Rotimi, there are things we can't say, we are on air. Do they deliver on the job? When they see anybody, to indict them, it becomes difficult, because you don't want somebody to call somebody in district this and this and say, Mrs. Lagbaja, I learned you are the one that want to destroy the life of Mr. So and so. He said destroy. I didn't see the man on duty, and I needed to write my report. They said, I better leave that story. Is he the first person to be absent? And in fact, after pleading with you to drop that case, if you don't do it, some of them will go diabolical with you. Before you destroy my life, I will also destroy. Are they really destroying his life? They are telling you to do your work, and you are complaining that somebody wants to destroy your life, and they want to take away your means of livelihood. That means of livelihood, you were not present to even leave the thing. You are only collecting salary. How do we expect a change? Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I'm afraid we'll have to end on that note because it's past 10, and it's been an interesting conversation. And I'd like to thank Olushola Olumide for joining and giving such insightful and engaging contribution and analysis. I know that for those of you who can't speak Yoruba, we will always interject to interpret some of those idiomatic expressions and powerful illustrations from Olushola. And thank you, Fiyinfolu Falodu. We hope that the rain has come to wash away all the bad things in the cockpit in the area.
It's not anywhere I am.
Okay, it's really raining heavily here.
You should send rain.
Well, I don't want to wait till I finish my session. I'll be live on the
even me
Lagos Teachers Conference shortly.
P, don't send the rain yet. Please, I'm also
I
busy
don't want
somewhere.
my internet to go. So
Please.
We'll
please,
hold it for now.
enjoy the
Hold
rain
the
on
rain
our
for now.
behalf.
Yes.
Enjoy the rain on our behalf. Thank you, guys. Thank you, tribe members. And if you're watching us, thank you so much for joining. And we'll be here tomorrow, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. for another interesting conversation. And tomorrow, Faye, do you want to do us the honors to tell us all about tomorrow? Faye, are you there? Hello, Faye.
I hope it's not the rain, no.
Okay, let me just, are you there, Faye? Anyway, tomorrow we'll be talking about it's time for native content. It's time for native content. So this is just like a follow-up to what we have had today. If you enjoyed the session today, don't miss tomorrow. Tell someone that to subscribe to our channel, follow our experts on social media, and we'll see you. And until then, we have something to say to you at the count of 2. 1, 2, go.
It's always a great money on the Good Money Education Show. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.